What's up, guys? I wanted to talk a little bit about all the stuff that's been going on in the gaming industry, especially what related to Red Dead Redemption 2 online. Uh, there's also the whole blowback against Bethesda with their game Fallout 76. I don't play that game, so but I've looked at all the stuff going on with it. I see video clips of it and stuff. So it looks like that game's a complete mess. So pretty much you're seeing, I think, a tipping point in the industry with in terms of microtransactions, in terms of uh, false advertisement, all the things that developers have been doing and getting worse, and it's been building year after year. You get less and less for your money. The games, I'm not talking about every game. There are exceptions. There are some really good games out there, but as a whole, for the most part, on average, you do kind of feel like you're getting less for your money than you used to get many years ago, and in terms of game quality. Um, and I've talked about this in the past. The biggest reason is that ever since online gaming became more and more popular, because I remember way back when I was playing games early on, like the early days, like Grand Theft Auto 3, and I played Siphon Filter or Resident Evil or Tomb Raider. The early games. Their online multiplayer was not even a thing at that point, right? It wasn't long after that it started becoming something. It took some time. Now, online multi-game player gaming is, that's just part of every game now. Um, but I'm not a big fan of online gaming. I never have been. There's only a handful of games that I've really spent any time on in terms of online gaming. The first game that I really spent a lot of time on, ironically, turned out to be one of the early stages of DLC. Microtransactions wasn't a thing at that point, but DLC was like the early stages of that. And that was with Max Payne 3, a game that I loved. I think it's a very underrated game. Um, and the online multiplayer, it might be one of the most enjoyable, or I would say entertaining experiences I've ever had playing online. It's a very simple deathmatch type of system. It's just people killing each other. Um, it's nothing like let's say Grand Theft Auto Online, where you got all kinds of stuff happening, races, heists, all that stuff. This game is very bare bones. It's very basic in terms of online multiplayer. However, the gameplay mechanics is what makes it so great. Unfortunately, Rockstar implemented uh, a very unbalanced game, right? Which is one of the things you're seeing now with Red Dead Redemption 2, that the online is completely unbalanced in terms of not just money and the way the money system works and the expense of items, but also the weapons and stuff like that. Like you'll be there, and you'll shoot a guy 5 or 6 times, and he won't die, and he'll shoot you once or twice, and you're dead because they somehow figured a way to harvest money. There's a lot of glitches. The game is still in the beta stage. They call it beta online, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. But going back to Max Payne 3, I still play that game from time to time, but it's such a mess, and it's an old game. I don't expect these guys to continue to update it, but they gave up on that game. I would say after the first year of the game online, they just like walked away from it and they left it as a mess. Now they purposely made it unbalanced, where certain uh, weapons, or they had a bomb suit that you could use, and it that in combination with other things like there's something called a big dog burst that I've talked about in the past, and it's one of those things. It's like a painkiller, but it's almost like unlimited. It builds up on your adrenaline bar, and you can just use it again and again. And if you have a bomb suit, you're basically almost indestructible. And you shoot these guys, and you'll spend half your ammo, and you can't take them down. Also, the sawed-off shotgun, they can get one-shot kills from a ridiculous distance. So they purposely unbalanced this game because you could only get certain things like the bomb suit and even other weapons that are overpowered by buying the DLC. You couldn't get it if you didn't get the DLC, and that was the early stages of it. And when I played the game, I couldn't believe how unbalanced it was, and I kept thinking they're gonna fix it or something, but they never did. They just at some point gave up on it. I think it had a lot to do with the sales. Like, as great as that game is, it just didn't catch on like they thought it would for whatever reason. And the sales never really matched expectations, and they just gave up on it. And in my opinion, it was Rockstar's worst moment. I love Rockstar games. I love all the games they make. I'm a huge fan, but man, I'll tell you, to this day, that has left a sour taste in my mouth. I just thought it was a bad sign, and I knew back then. I said, this doesn't. You could tell a lot of this is on purpose, so that you can go buy the DLC just to try to compete, and that's how these developers create this level of imbalance, so that the only way you could be competitive against other people is to cave in and spend the money and go out and buy the DLC. And now it's really more or less more microtransactions than anything. So that was the early stages of it, and it's a shame because it's a great game, and the offline portion of the game is fantastic. And I have one rule, and it's I shouldn't even call it a rule. It's just something I don't do. I don't buy games based on online multiplayer. I buy games that I want that I think I'll enjoy offline. If I can't, or if I don't feel like I'm gonna enjoy the game by myself offline, I'm not gonna buy it. I have no interest in it. Um, I'm not a big fan of online gaming because that's one part of it, right? What these companies are doing to ruin these games and ruin the experience and try to squeeze more money out of you. Aside from that, I just, for the most part, I think that the majority of my experience online is frustration. It's like, playing against other people online is not really what it's cracked up to be, unless you play with specific people you know. If you're just in these free roam lobbies or in just random lobbies, you're just going to deal with people trying to make your experience a miserable one. Whether it's somebody just trolling or just they get off on ruining your game experience, and you're trying to do something and they're just messing with you. And there are moments where it could be fun, but it's one of those things that for me it's fun for a moment and then it gets old, and then you're like, okay, leave me alone now, let me go do my thing, and you can't. Uh, I gave the online on Red Dead a try. It's a mess. And it's too much grinding. It's the pricing is ridiculous. I'm not going to talk too much about the issues of the game because there's a million videos about it. Everyone's talked about it. But what I am going to talk about is the fact that I predicted all this. And if you don't believe me, go look at my older videos on Red Dead Redemption 2 dating back to last year when Rockstar first delayed the game. After the game was supposed to come out a year ago. And then they delayed it. And it was, the excuse they gave was that they were polishing the game. And I made a video discussing what I thought was really happening. And in my opinion, I think I was right. I think my prediction was true. It came out, and I said clearly that I thought the biggest reason, they were polishing the game and stuff like that, but the biggest thing was EA, at the time, EA was facing a huge backlash for Battlefront. Those of you who follow gaming news and stuff like that, you know what I'm talking about. About a year ago, it was a huge backlash against EA and microtransactions, and that's to me when the wave, the backlash from gamers was really starting to take effect. And I said, Rockstar is not a stupid company. They pay attention to what's going on. So not only that, Take-Two is the parent company, and they were getting a lot of backlash for NBA 2K and what they've been doing with the franchise and the microtransactions are horrendous. So they themselves have seen it within the company, or at least within the parent company of Take-Two, right? Then they see EA and all the backlash, and they see that the stock prices have dropped. And they're still to this day going down. Sales are dropping. You see things with now with Bethesda, all the shit they pulled with Fallout. That whole game is a mess. So they didn't even really put out a decent game that you can enjoy. Besides all the other stuff that you see it's commonplace now. And they're getting huge backlash. The prices of these games are dropping almost a week after release. Nobody's buying these games. I mean, I'm not going to say nobody, but in terms of what they expected to do, they're getting killed, and their stock is going down. So I've always said that as gamers, as a community, we have the ultimate power. And I've been through it all. I've talked about this for years in terms of NASCAR games. And I keep telling people, stop purchasing this meaningless garbage. If you don't buy this stuff, they'll stop. They'll get the message. Money, at the end of the day, money is the ultimate decider. And if you don't buy this stuff, they'll stop doing it. They'll focus more on the game. It used to be that we're going to put out the best possible game, and if it's a really good product, they'll buy it. And then word of mouth catches on, and more people are going to get interested, and more people will buy it. And that is basically how these companies made money, right? They're game developers. But in recent years, you've seen this tide change where it's no longer really about the main game. It's about everything they can do after they release the game. How can we release a game that is so unbalanced that it forces people to purchase this extra stuff, DLC, microtransactions, just to compete? So you're purposely creating an environment where the only way you can enjoy the game is to spend even more money. And that is a problem. And people are starting to finally fight and push back. They're refusing to buy this stuff. and you've had these corporations, these companies, they've become so arrogant that EA basically told people, you don't like it, don't buy it. And you make a statement like that when you're arrogant, because what you're saying is, you know what, you don't like it, don't buy it. But you know in the back of your mind, you're going to, they're thinking, you're still going to buy it. So you could complain all you want. We know you're going to cave and you're just going to fold and you're going to spend the money. And yeah, you'll complain and whatever, it's annoying for a while, but we'll just keep doing what we're doing and the money's going to keep coming in. But you know what? They saw that, okay, you told people you don't like it, don't buy it. Guess what? They're not buying. They didn't buy it, right? Their sales are nowhere near what they were expecting, and their stock prices are plummeting every day. So they're getting the message. And I've been talking about this for a long time, and I told you guys, I said they delayed Red Dead 2 because they're working on this online multiplayer. They want to see how they can monetize it without facing the backlash that EA did with Battlefront. Okay? And now they're seeing what's happening with Bethesda. So they made a smart move by calling the online a beta, right? So they can turn around now, which they did. By the way, that's the other thing I'm going to talk about. They did say, they just released a statement stating that they are going to work on balancing the money in the game and how you earn things. So they're admitting there's a problem, but they're kind of getting away with saying, well, it is a beta, meaning that it's a work in progress. So it's, as a company, it's smart that they did that, because they're already going in saying, well, it is a beta, so it's not the final product, and they're going to keep working on it. But in a way, Grand Theft Auto Online was also a beta till this day, because they're always updating it. So as long as you're constantly updating and fixing stuff, it's technically a beta. So what they did was officially call it a beta, and now they can turn around, which they did. And they said, well, we are working on that, as well as bugs and glitches and stuff like that. So they know they can't leave the game the way it is, because they're going to get attacked. So I was right. And if you don't believe me, go back, go to my videos, and you'll find it. Earlier videos where I talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 and why the game is delayed, and the real reason. I think I don't remember the title, but it was the whole premise was the real reason Rockstar delayed RDR2, which at the time everybody was saying, oh, they just want to make the game as good as they can. Which, yeah, that's partly true. I'm sure, they're a great game developer, right? The actual games are high quality. And the reason for that is because they do put their all into it. And if they have to delay a game because they don't feel it's ready, they delay it. Whereas a lot of other companies just throw the game out there and then we'll fix it later. So that is true. But the main reason I always felt was they want to make sure that they can monetize the shit out of the online. And as you could see in the initial release, there's no way this is a mistake. They purposely they set up the whole monetization this way. So what they wanted to do was they put the canary in the coal mine, right? And they said, let's see if this thing dies, whatever. Let's see if we'll know if it's poisonous in there. And they're seeing that it is, because they're watching the stock prices drop from these other companies. So they're reacting, and they're reacting pretty quickly. So kudos to them, but I don't believe they're not going to get rid of microtransactions. They're going to fucking tweak it. They want to find that balance where people accept it and they don't get killed by it and their stock prices don't go down. But remember, Take-Two is the parent company. They're the ones who ultimately are guiding this system. And they believe me, their goal is to turn uh, Red Dead Redemption 2 online into NBA 2K with the monetization. They're gonna push it as far as they can. Which is why I remind people, at the end of the day, it's up to us. I refuse, as much as I love Red Dead Redemption 2, I think it's the greatest game I've ever played. I love it. And in all honesty, I didn't get these crazy Ultimate Editions. I think that's all a waste of money. I don't do that stuff. I got the basic bare bones $60 version. But I feel like I paid $60 for it. I got my money's worth. The offline is that good. It's that great of an experience. And even once you finish the story, the way that Rockstar creates these games, there's so much more to do even when you finish the story. The replay value is sky high. So for me, even if I never play RDR2 online, this game is worth every penny. And I'm happy I bought it, and I'm gonna be playing this game for years. But I would like to be able to enjoy the online. But you know what? At the end of the day, no matter how they tweak it, they're never going to get a dime from me in terms of microtransactions. I never spent a dime on GTA Online, and I played that for years. And I found enjoyment in it. I did a lot of racing. I did a lot of cool stuff. I never really got focused on all the money spending and all the stuff that you could get. I was enjoying the game for what it was, and I made money because I did a lot of races. So there are ways to grind and make money, but the grinding has to be fun. It can't be doing mundane shit over and over and over that's boring, that you're spending hours doing something that's fucking boring just to build up enough money to just get some trinkets. I could live without it. But when the game is unbalanced, where the actual, other people are overpowering you, that's a problem because now it's affecting the actual gaming, the gameplay. We're not talking about some cool clothes, hairstyles, or like, making your gun look cool, visuals. We're talking about gameplay stuff, weapons. So that has to be balanced. And if they don't balance it, they're gonna get killed by people. And I think that the things I've talked about have come to fruition. It's exactly what I thought it would be. And I think that they were trying to find that balance of how far can we push microtransactions without having what happened to EA happen to us. And that's why the timing of the whole thing, that's why it was obvious to me, because it was exactly a year ago when Rockstar announced that they were delaying the game for a full year. And I said it. Go look at the video. I said it. I said, they're not fucking polishing the game. For a year? You need a year to polish a game that you've been already working on for 7 or 8 years? No. I didn't buy it, and now I think, I was proven right. So, my main point is this. I want people to understand, we're all upset. We all look at this stuff. If you get fed up. But I also want you to realize that there's a lot of positives. There is finally people are pushing back. Finally, people are finding ways to fight back, whether it's on social media, complaining, or but at the end of the day, like I said, it's money that talks. And people are refusing to spend the money. And when these companies who are spending the extra resources to create all these microtransactions and make these systems the way they are, when they're not going to continue to do that, because time is money. And then if they know that they're going to get killed, people just aren't going to buy it. Like EA told people, you don't like it, don't buy it. And guess what? They didn't. I guarantee you they're not going to tell people that anymore. You're never going to hear them tell people, well, if you don't like it, don't buy it. They're not going to do it. So other companies are watching. They're paying attention. And yeah, they're going to continue to try to find ways to monetize, because once they got used to that, that's easy money. You get used to that, you can't just walk away from it, right? So they're addicted to it. And part of it has been the fault of the gaming community. And I've been saying this for years. At the end of the day, we have no one to blame but ourselves. If you purchase this stuff, you are part of the problem. And I refuse to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. And part of that is simply not buying this shit. So that's basically what's going on. And I just wanted to point that out to people and pay attention and see how all this backlash, it's getting bigger and bigger. And these companies are starting to feel the pain where it matters. All right? And that's in terms of stocks and just game sales. Their profits are going down. So when you get these companies to the point where they have to admit they've fucked up, you're doing something. And I hope people really see that and say, you know what? As a consumer, I'm the one that decides the direction of the gaming industry. And when people stop buying this garbage, this meaningless garbage, it will go away. You'll start seeing these developers go back to focus on the main game. Go back to focusing on single player offline content and make the online parts of the game better balanced and more enjoyable for people. And realize that we're going to have to focus on selling as many hard copies of these games and not what we can squeeze from people after they already bought the game. So change doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow and tedious process, but I think more and more people are starting to wake up and realize. And it's, you're going to have kids whose parents don't really care what they're doing and just, whatever. You want to buy some crap, as long as you leave me alone and you just stay in your room, go ahead and buy it. You're always going to have that segment of the community. But the rest of us, we're not going to pay for this stuff. And, the only DLC I'll buy is it, like, let's say Rockstar put out, like they did with the first Red Dead Redemption, and they put out the Undead Nightmare chapter, which is a whole other story. I'll gladly pay for that. But that's real content. That's enjoyable. It's an expansion to the main game. So that's DLC done right. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. And I said it, man. I fucking predicted it. I knew this was going to happen with Red Dead Redemption 2. And I knew this was why they delayed the game. And you see now that it's an absolute mess online. So I've been playing it and I stopped. I'm just going back to offline. I'm having a blast with the offline. And I'll go back to the online. I'll give it a week, maybe 2 weeks. See what Rockstar does. See if they balance it out. Because I'm not going to spend time grinding and getting fucking trolled by a bunch of idiots online. I mean, that's another thing. No matter what, you're in these lobbies. You're trying to do certain things. And then a bunch of guys show up and they just ruin it for you. And that's why I've never been a fan of online gaming. I'm not sure I ever will be. So that's pretty much it. What do you guys think about what I said? I look forward to your comments.